I also just want to see him controlling an Endbringer now.
Welcome to Inchworm,
the podcast in which we're inching through Worm. I'm Jenny.
And I'm Ted.
And this was Interlude 10.
The Regent Interlude.
The Regent Interlude. It was as intense as you promised.
Yeah, how you feeling?
Well, I really enjoyed it. It wasn't, like you said, it wasn't the kind of thing that pressed my buttons particularly, but I do think there are some buttons being pressed very strongly here. And I think I read the first half of the chapter. It was like lying in bed because I'd like woken up too early. I think Violet had cried or something. And I started reading it and I was like shaking because it was just like so harrowing what he is doing to Shadowstalker. And yet I didn't feel sympathy for her for most of the chapter until like the end.
Yeah, well, I mean, I'm glad you got there eventually. No, I mean, I think that's part of what makes the chapter so good. I feel like this is one of the chapters that stands out when you think about Worm.
I bet.
Like, I feel like it's just, for me at least, is just very memorable. I just remember reading it. I remember how I felt about it. Had such a big impact. I feel like a lot of people, it hits you in that way because it sort of comes out of left field.
It's
in a lot
big,
of ways.
I don't know exactly a tonal departure, but it's a big intensity difference from the rest of it.
I mean,
I think it is a tonal departure. It is, I think you were saying it's more like horror.
It's overt horror
than what we've had previously. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I have the joy of summarizing this chapter for our listeners. I think it's worth putting in a content warning up front about some of the things that will come up in the chapter and that we are likely to discuss. So, content warning for suicide and suicide attempts, attempted murder related to that, and rape and sexual assault.
Yeah, it's a lot.
It's a lot. So we start with, "I'm letting you go, Regent lied," a killer opening line. And we get the whole dialogue between Regent and Shadowstalker again from Regent's perspective, but revealing to us and to Sophia that he is not planning on letting her go. And as that pin drops for her, we learn that they don't have like any kind of psychic connection, like they can't read each other's thoughts, but he only has control over voluntary movements of her nervous system, and any involuntary movement, like her heartbeat changing, her tensing up, like those kinds of things sort of serve as, he says, a very advanced polygraph. He can basically figure out how she's feeling about what is happening to her as she struggles for control, even if they can't communicate directly. So we get this whole conversation again, and he walks her away from the Undersiders. We learn that Regent really likes being in Sophia's body. He talks about that she's in good shape, she's an athlete, her power, lets her go into this floaty shadow state. Her muscle memory makes it really easy to fight as her, and he thinks that's something that he really likes. Maximum reward for minimal effort. He reflects a little bit about the dynamic on the Undersiders, that Brian, Lisa, and Taylor are friends. And he's like, Brian's my friend, but like more like a coworker / roommate type, but that's fine with me. He knows he's a background character, and he's cool with that. It suits him well. And he points out that in order to keep control over Shadowstalker, as the distance between them widens, his control gets harder and harder. And it's more likely that he'll slip, she'll be able to escape from his control or something. And he finds it just as hard in this state to control himself as he does to control his puppets. So he's like, it's good that I'm not friendlier with the Undersiders because they might notice that I start talking weird or whatever. And later in the chapter, he like intentionally puts in headphones to listen to music in his Regent self, just so that people will leave him alone and he can focus entirely on controlling Shadowstalker. He thinks about how much he's missed using his power. It's sort of a high, feeling someone else's body and someone else's emotions being merely Alec is dull in comparison. And he makes the connection, did my dad have something to do with this? And he takes us to a memory that he has of being 8, throwing a tantrum about the TV and seeing his sisters and one of the women his father was sleeping with and controlling, immediately being like, oh my God, he's throwing a tantrum, trying to get him to calm down. But he didn't calm down. And as a result, his father, Heartbreaker, came out and immediately sort of terror bombed them. They just felt this overwhelming sense of fear. And Regent thinks to himself, and yeah, I remember that was the summer. I don't think I said a single word out loud for the rest of the year. And that's one of a dozen experiences that he can draw on that are kind of like this. He says it's the emotional equivalent, maybe, of staring into the sun for too long and being left blind. Though it's also, having to do with his own power. He tells us that he has puppeted 4 other people at the same time. He's tried every kind of drug in someone else's body. He's used both boys and girls to sleep with himself. And he returns to telling us that, Shadowstalker, in addition to it fun to be in an athlete's body, just like feeling her intense emotions, even though they're negative emotions, is something that he can savor. He says it's like being a very involved spectator, thrilling in the same way that a fantastic, scary movie is. He is continuing to walk as Shadowstalker. He stretches and feels up her body, including her breasts, and he can feel the revulsion from her. And then he starts to taunt her. She gets nothing from him, so he sort of speaks under her breath in order to talk to Shadowstalker throughout the chapter. He starts to tell her, I knew as I was gearing up to let you go, you were too angry to back down and walk away. There's no way you're going to leave town. So I'm enjoying flexing my powers, and I'm going to go another way, deal with the situation myself. He throws away a lot of the stuff that Shadowstalker has in her pockets, including keys and a ward's ID card. He finds her phones, her ward's smartphone, which he's able to use muscle memory on to find out Sophia's PIN and access, and her civilian phone, which she has on her, even though it's really bad operational security. And he thinks briefly, could I call the director? No, she probably knows about the puppeting thing by now. Ooh, Emma Barnes. That's interesting. I have a theory. And we learn, as he starts going through Shadowstalker's civilian phone and focusing on the text to Emma, that Regent has heard from Taylor, Sophia's civilian name, and has started to, I guess, theorize that maybe Sophia was one of her bullies. And he finds in Shadowstalker's saved texts on her civilian phone a conversation between Emma and Sophia immediately after one of the bullying incidents that we read about a few arcs ago, talking about the aftermath of the dead mom insult that made Taylor start to cry. This clicks into place. Yes, Sophia is one of the bullies. Emma is one of the bullies. Sophia knows Taylor and was responsible for her trigger event. We don't really get Regent reflecting on this explicitly, but I think we get enough breadcrumbs that it's clear that he's put all of this together by this point. Having realized this, he feels annoyed. He wants to feel worse for Taylor than he actually does feel bad for her. But he goes on to say, with irony, Sophia, you're not a nice person. He then emails these texts to the school administration and the police, saying basically, hey, I found this phone and there's a bunch of shady stuff on it. Sending that email has the biggest reaction yet from Sophia, an explosion of rage. And he jumps off the roof in her body, waiting to the last second to activate her shadow state. This, of course, really hurts her, hitting the ground in her shadow state, fully dissipating. And he reflects, I don't feel pain the way that my puppets do. Then he calls Emma. It's 3 a.m, and he has Sophia say, I need to talk to someone. I'm lonely. I miss you. I've been in love with you from the beginning. And before he can even really get into this fake confession, Emma says, don't call me again. This is stupid, and hangs up. His next gambit is to look at the Maps app on her phone. He uses it to find her home address. when he gets home, he successfully guesses that when he gets to Sophia's home, he sees a slightly older man, a young 20-something, step outside into the front hall, call for his mom, and this is Shadowstalker's mother, a 4-year-old sister, and then the other boy, Regent guesses, and we learn is Sophia's older brother. And he has Shadowstalker say, like, hey, bro, it's me. We learned that Sophia's brother, Terry, didn't know, but her mom does know that she's Shadowstalker. And of course, she's here in costume, and Sophia's mother is really upset. They have a confrontation in the kitchen where we learn again there was a deal. Shadowstalker could be a ward, but her siblings weren't supposed to know, and Regent plays up basically, this is a pain in the ass, I'm bored, I'm going to do what I want. And, he's putting her feet up on the table, he's yawning, and Regent shows a lethal crossbow to Sophia's mother. Really starts winding her up. Sophia's mother slaps her at one point, and Regent escalates to pointing his crossbow at her. At that point, in the sort of heated back and forth, Regent says something vague, which is part of his strategy. I promise you don't have the slightest idea of what I go through. Her mother says, if you're talking about Steven, which gets a reaction from Shadowstalker. And he basically gets tired of this confrontation and says, leave me alone, I'm going up to my room. And manages to grab, on the way up, the cord to the vacuum. And when Regent gets to Sophia's room, he sees sort of a small, normal teenager's bedroom. There's a vanity and a mirror. There's a bookshelf. There's a computer desk. There are pictures of Shadowstalker and a redheaded girl on the wall. There are some family pictures from when they were younger. Notably, in one of the family pictures, a man is cut out of it. He starts to quiz her. This is Steven. And he kind of asks, like, well, so what did he do to you? Did he hit you, touch you? She doesn't seem to react to those things. And he's like, I wonder what the deal is with there. Is that like verbal abuse? But he decides to move on. He then meticulously goes around burning Emma's face out of all of the pictures. Throughout this scene, he starts to monologue to her, we're more alike than you realize. We're both arrogant assholes. He goads her by saying, it seems like you really rose above your tough upbringing with all of that bullying shit. Then he writes a suicide note for Shadowstalker, framing it as a result of being rejected to this confession to Emma. And he basically stages a suicide, has her get on a chair to hang herself. We get into kind of a lot of procedural details there. And he speculates as she starts to tear up, I wonder if your boss is even going to tell them I was controlling you, because if that secret gets out, that's a PR nightmare. So maybe no one will ever know that this wasn't you, right? Like maybe the heroes will know, but maybe, your family won't know. And he gives her enough control to speak right before he's going to kill her. She asks why. He says, you fucked with my teammate. And she says, Gru? But he cuts her off. He sort of says, I don't know if I care, but it's the sort of thing I'll do because it feels like I should. Dunno. And he says, can you give me a reason not to do this? And she says, please. He says, that's not convincing. Kicks the chair, but in such a way that it rocks and does not fall out from under her feet. He chuckled lightly, feeling the confusion and relief from his host. It was a thrill unlike any other. I think I made my point. Then he says, look, I was telling the truth that I could control you faster, easier than before, but I think now, considering how much I've ruined your life, the calculus has changed. And actually, I know I've convinced you, because I can tell how, basically he can tell the anger is gone. There's only fear left in Sophia at this point. So he believes that he has taken things far enough that she will actually leave town. He doubles down on his threat. Basically, that if he ever gets control again, he's going to do something worse than he's done in this chapter so far. And he sees there are flashing lights, police, PRT outside of the house. And he says, well, it's up to you to get out of this. Get the fuck out of my city. And as he gives her body back to her, the chapter ends.
All right. Yeah. It's really fascinating how sympathies work in narrative. Like, Sophia has been so detestable. And I was saying a few chapters ago, I don't remember when, that like we were in her head and it didn't make her sympathetic. Like we had an entire chapter from her point of view and I still wasn't on her side.
Right.
And then we had Alec controlling her and that did, sway the sympathies a little. But like any character who we hadn't been made to hate this much, I think I would have been on their side much faster. Right. In this chapter. I mean, it was objectively, like, horrifying what he was doing to her, but also I kind of wanted her life ruined. Like, she deserved to have the school told about the bullying that she was doing.
Yeah.
And she should, in fact, like, leaving town would be a really good move. And I was like, oh, I hope he's going to do that. I did actually also think he was going to kill her, so...
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think if we'd been in her point of view in this chapter... I might have been much more sympathetic to her. I'm not sure. It probably depends on what she was thinking about it this whole time, but...
That's funny. I thought you were going to say that being in Regent's perspective was the one that got you more on her side.
Actually, yeah, now that I'm thinking about it, if we'd been in her head, she probably would have been vitriolic to a point that I would have just been, like, reminded of all her worst attributes. Because the moment when I switched allegiances, when I was like, oh no, this is actually too horrible and I don't want this to happen, is when she starts crying.
Of course.
And it's when he starts talking about, like, is your mom gonna know that it wasn't you? And I was like, oh no, this is actually too horrible.
Yeah.
And also because of what it was gonna do to that woman.
It's also such a beautiful detail. Wildbow does a really good job of explaining how his power works with the voluntary versus involuntary control over the body, right? And so you hit that beat over and over and over again so that when the tears come, you know that there is Sophia crying. And he like scoffs at her in that moment. It's brutal. I want to ask, up until the point that Sophia knows she's not going to die, did you think he was going to pull the punch? Or were you fully,
I thought he was going to kill her.
You were fully expecting that this was like a snuff film of a chapter. Yeah.
I mean, yes.
No, I mean, I think...
I thought he was going to kill her. That's what I predicted last time.
No, I know.
Because I was like, the reason not to let her go is so you can just dispose of her.
Exactly.
It turns out his reason was to convince her really thoroughly because he knew she wasn't going to be convinced by any sort of just like quick threat. Yeah.
And I mean, we should talk about it, but it's unclear. It's unclear at what points he was thinking about killing her versus not.
No, that's true.
We don't learn enough to know decisively. He was never going to kill her, or like he was definitely going to kill her and changed his mind.
If she hadn't been convinced to leave, like if he hadn't been able to tell that, oh, the anger's gone, she's just afraid, she would leave if I told her to now. Yeah. I think he probably would have killed her if he couldn't, because he wanted to kind of solve the problem in his own way without murder, but I think he would have been willing to do murder.
And presumably when he says it again, I've killed before. Yeah. He's not bluffing.
Oh, yeah, no. Yeah. I think we know that. And,
I mean, he's not bluffing about the threat to Sophia, that he would kill her. Yeah.
I mean, although his character in this is fascinating because he's so blunted, he's so numbed.
Yeah.
And he is very much not in touch with his emotions or with any sense of conscience. He sort of has this vague sense of how he should be feeling and how he should be acting in reaction to those feelings.
Yeah.
But it feels very abstract and sort of learned. The way, like, sometimes you hear autistic people talk about how they'll imitate body language, but it's deliberate.
Right.
Like, this is sort of, I mean, not saying that he is autistic in this way, but just like, he doesn't have the emotions, but he's sort of learned which ones he should have. So he's like, kind of acting in response to them, even though he doesn't have them.
Right.
But he also feels bad about not having them, which is funny.
Yeah. It's a really, before we get into the analysis more, I wanted to just share what my experience of this chapter was both times through. Because it's really interesting rereading it. It definitely hit less the second time, just because knowing that he's not going to kill her, and also knowing a lot more about like what happens in the story, and like
I'm so intrigued.
You're just reading it in a totally different way. But I remember the first time through, just partway through the chapter, being like, "Oh my god, this is pure horror." For me, it's like I love it. I was like, I can't believe Wildbow is going here. It did feel like such a tonal shift, but I was like, it is so well crafted and so surprising. I also had a super strong reaction of like, oh, Regent is like evil. Like he is a villain through and through in this chapter in a way that I feel like at this point in my read, I was probably a little less critical in the sort of like not thinking twice about the way Taylor was feeling about all these things, and a little bit more like, oh yeah, well, the Undersiders, they're villains, but they're not that bad, right? And then being like, oh my god, this monster is walking among them.
See, I feel like I've had a lot more time to process like, oh, Regent really seems, deeply troubled, because we're stopping and talking.
And we sort of got that, we had a few beats of that, right? But like this is where it's like, it feels like a mask off villainy moment.
Mm-hmm. And it wasn't surprising to me in the same way.
Right. Even on a reread, though, I feel like taking more time with it, it's like I found myself revisiting Early Worm. I was like, oh yeah, I don't have much of an opinion of Regent. He seems kind of like an asshole, kind of like immature or whatever. And then it's like you get to this chapter and he's a villain. And this time through I was like, oh my god, his backstory is so tragic. And like he seems like he's really struggling like leading up to this. And while you do get a much deeper sense of understanding him, I'm not sure how much I can read what he's doing to her and not have that horrified response. I also think something that I struggle with his character and the story is the rape and sexual assault stuff. We get him confessing to rape in sort of this like heightened, there are very larger than life circumstances behind it, but he's like, I puppeteered people to have sex with myself, right? Which is that's a very hard thing for me to get past, for him to confess to, beyond the murders, which also we had sort of heard about as like, yeah, well, my dad said like, you better shoot that person, sort of like you can imagine a very charitable version of it. And then in this chapter, when he's like, he's getting off on being in Sophia's body and he like feels her up, it's such he's already fully dominating and controlling her.
Right.
But it's such a disgusting dominance move. Yeah. And the fact that he's doing it in order to get the thrill of her being repulsed by it.
Right. He wants to taste the emotions.
Is so horrifying, distasteful, disgusting. It's just like this chapter is like a big black mark for Regent relative to like what we've seen from him so far. And even on like a reread, I feel coming to it so much more analytically and being like, wow, like his life has made him this way. And it's like such a sad state that he was in and that he is in now. But I really struggle not hating him after seeing what he does and how he feels about it. Yeah,
I don't know if I quite feel that hatred. Like, I feel the sort of distaste. Like, I don't want to spend like, I don't want Taylor to be like hanging out with him. Like, I feel repulsed by him.
Yeah.
I don't know if I quite hate him. And I was just thinking, like, I feel
hate might be a strong word.
Yeah. No, but I know that feeling of like the way that I hated Sophia in, previous chapters. I feel like there are a few big pieces that kind of keep him out of that hate, like, instinctive reaction for me. And part of it's like, he's on our protagonist's side, so it's, easier to know, it's harder to hate him.
And he likes her now.
It's true.
He's the second most pro-Taylor Undersider right now.
And he's kind of doing this for her.
I know. I do really want to talk about that.
We should talk about that.
Yeah.
But also, the thing where he describes himself as a background character, and that's what he makes himself deliberately, and he's, like, cool with that, I feel like lessens the intensity. Like, his role in the narrative seems unlikely to be, like, the driving villainous force.
Right.
Like, if we found out, like, oh, quiet Alec, who's just kind of sarcastic in the corner, is, like, secretly masterminding a plan to, like, there's nothing of that. So I don't feel the sort of narrative impulse of, like, he must be stopped.
Yeah.
Also because this stuff, like this thing that he's doing to Sophia is something he has already largely stopped doing. And it doesn't, I think if he were saying in this chapter, like, wow, this felt good, maybe I'll do more of this soon. Like, I would feel more of a like, oh crap, no. Like,
yeah. And I don't want to say anything about where the story is going.
Yeah.
I do want to say, and I feel like I felt this immediately the first time I read the chapter, the fact that this is a secret from Taylor sets up this future narrative potential for detonation, because we know Taylor was on board with this up to the point that it ended last chapter.
Yeah.
And she does not know the lengths that he went to. And she does not know that nominally it was on her behalf.
Yeah.
And I feel like that is the kind of thing, I don't know that I can think of an example that is not like a serious spoiler, but the dynamic between Walt and Jesse on Breaking Bad has a lot of moments in early seasons, especially the end of season 2, but there are a few moments where it's like this thing happens that we know about, and they're like the duo that's like their relationship is kind of the heart of the show in a lot of ways. And then you're like, you just know at some point all these secrets are going to come out, and like how are we going to see that happen? And I feel like what this chapter does that's so exciting to me is create this dramatic irony where we know this villainous depth that Regent has that Taylor doesn't know.
Yeah. I feel like because the result that he's going for is the one that Taylor thinks is going to happen anyway, the only likely way for this to come out would be for like Sophia to tell Taylor about it in like a moment of heated battle or something. But maybe if the other heroes will probably find out. So maybe one of them will tell Taylor.
I'm not even saying, I'm just saying that's the effect it has narratively. I'm not even saying,
All right, we'll see. Yeah.
Maybe we never see any of them again. The new characters all next chapter.
That would be a Wildbow choice. I did just want to comment, you were saying that the rape was hard for you to get past. I was just thinking while you said that, I was like, how old was he when he did that?
13.
Like 13.
Yeah.
I feel like that also is like, has a little bit of a softening effect for me. Like, I feel like raping someone as a 13-year-old is very different than doing it as an adult.
Yeah. No, I mean, I think it, to some level, it feels uncomfortable to talk about or even like contemplate because it's so horrifying.
Yeah.
Right. But I do think, I mean, the way that it's presented is very much like he's like, oh, I could do whatever drugs I wanted. I could have sex in whatever ways I wanted. It feels like there is something to me that is very human about like, I want to know what human experiences are like. I'm curious. I'm a kid who's, just sort of learning about the world or whatever, right? And like, there's absolutely no structure in place to guide him morally and say like, no, it would be wrong to use other people's bodies this way and like to get those feelings this way. And so like, there's a very human impulse at the core of Regent of like, I just want to experience what it's like to be a fully emotional being that is just like very compelling.
Right. And he has this range to explore that is so much broader than most people have in a way that's like really unhealthy for him. Like it kept making me think of like the ways in which smartphones are addictive, like sort of the constant stimulation for your brain, like scrolling TikTok or whatever that like is so much more than we're used to getting in other ways that like it can become addictive and it can be hard to enjoy normal life. And
if you could just hook yourself up to the pleasure machine, why wouldn't you? Kind of.
Right. And this thing of like, if you can just be in multiple bodies, like you can be two totally different people sleeping with each other. Like how would normal life, like that's how he says.
But I think part of it is like the juxtaposition, right? It's such a casual, he's so casual. I feel like it's really easy to come to his defense and be like, well, I can imagine the circumstances where he's young, it's coercive, he doesn't have, right? Like you can create a lot of excuses. But in this chapter, over and over, he talks about just the pleasure he is getting from being Sophia and tormenting Sophia.
Yeah. I mean, to be clear, I think trying to understand what goes into it is not the same as excusing it. Like, I think you can say, I can totally understand. I do understand how he ended up here. And I don't think that makes it less evil, what he's doing or who he is choosing to be.
Yeah. I guess maybe it's like, I feel like the very human impulse to me is the one about, I want to know what it's like to do some drugs, to like, you know, if I could ethically use Regent's power to have sex with a body that's not my own, I absolutely would. It would be so...
This is like the Animorphs thing. Like, of course you'd want to morph your partner and like have sex in the reverse bodies. That would be fascinating.
It's like, would you kiss your clone? Yes, absolutely. Like that all feels very human, and maybe it's my personality or something, but just being willing to do to Sophia what he does to Sophia is just not something that I identify with. And that's I feel like what is repulsive. And like, you know, I don't know. Obviously, a lot of people get off on domination and not in like a, you know, ethical kink way.
Right.
So maybe that's just a part of the human experience I would be more open to if I was raised by Heartbreaker. But
it does sort of feel like he has, like, there's some part of normal human nature that's just turned off for him. Yeah. Like, there's some, like, natural, like, squeamishness, reluctance, like, revulsion at doing this to someone else, that just, like, that switch got turned off. That switch got broken and thrown out.
Yeah.
I mean, he says it himself. Like, he talks about, like, you know, sometimes he wondered if it, like...
I know.
Irrevocably changed by his dad. And I was like, you wonder? Like...
No, yeah, of course.
Obvious.
It's such an understatement. But that's his whole shtick,
tone,
right?
Yeah, he knows. He is self-aware about it.
Yeah.
He's sort of aware of what he's missing, but he can't access it in himself because he does embody these other people, and so he does feel their emotions. He's like, other people feel things more intensely than I do, but he also doesn't read their minds, so he's not getting the full picture. He just kind of knows there's this thing he's not getting.
I do. I mean, my reaction aside, reading it this time, I actually do think there is a part of Regent that is doing this for Taylor and for his team in a way that is not villainous. Right? Like, I think the way that it feels like it adds up to me is he's going along to get along. He's not going to put up a big fight about doing this to Sophia. He is very happy to have fun, right? I think he's having fun in this chapter doing what he's doing.
Yeah.
But I think he wouldn't do it if he wasn't trying to get revenge for Taylor.
Yeah.
And he wasn't trying to guarantee that Sophia would leave Brockton Bay.
Yeah, I agree.
I feel like it's so fascinating to me, this, like, he intellectually knows that what Sophia and Emma did to Taylor is awful. Mm-hmm. He says he feels annoyed because he doesn't feel that sense of outrage and that sense of anger. And I was, again, thinking one of the big moments for me on the reread with Regent was like the way that he reacts to hearing about Taylor not wanting to go after her bullies and thinking just like, but how could you, right? Like, and I think to me what it is that there is some part of him that sees that kind of thing as unjust and bad. Mm-hmm. And he doesn't
he was the most like vehement when she was like, these bullies have been doing this. He was like, you have to get revenge.
Right. And he doesn't feel it, but he like knows that he should feel it. I think you were saying that. And so that is such an interesting and somewhat redeeming, I guess, quality to him. Yeah. And, you know, despite the fact that he's like, yeah, they're not my friends, you know, I'm kind of their coworker or whatever. You know, it's given the way that he's able to scare Sophia seems pretty likely to be effective, but he's really raising the temperature against him personally if this plan doesn't go well. And he's willing to do that for his team. And that is a very, like, for someone who is he's like a cackling, giggling villain, like literally with what he's doing to her. But like the reason he's doing it is like for the benefit of the Undersiders and not because he's like, he, no one will know that I'm tormenting her.
Right. He does recognize that there's potential
Yeah,
drawbacks.
so right, it's not, to me, it doesn't excuse what he does, but it's such a really well-threaded needle to be like, exactly, right, like he's a very complicated villain.
And one of the fascinating things about it to me is that he talked when he was, narrating his, like, I'm Heartbreaker's son thing to the rest of the Undersiders. It's like, he had me do things that violated my conscience. And what's fascinating is that we don't ever see him talk or think about his conscience. Like, he's not someone who's like, this feels so good, but I know it's wrong. Like, he's not struggling with temptation in a way that we can see. But it is interesting because, A, he could have just killed her.
Yeah.
That would have been easier, and maybe that would have brought down the same ire of the heroes against him, But potentially the reason he doesn't kill her is because he thinks that if he can get her to go away without killing her, that is morally better. Potentially. I don't know if that's true.
Right.
And also, he hasn't been controlling people like this, possibly just for practical reasons because he's sort of hiding from his dad. Maybe because he thinks it's wrong, but he also never says that.
Exactly.
So I'm really not sure.
Yeah.
His conscience, like his emotions, is just very, very muted, and he isn't like hit with it in any visceral way.
I was thinking a lot about this in this sort of genius of writing this chapter in a way that it's the Regent interlude. Mm-hmm. But we don't get Regent in his Regent self, as he referred to himself, right?
Right, we don't actually see
we
that
as readers
body at all.
only get access to him in his capacity for doing this, which is the only way that he feels anything, right?
Yeah.
It's like it formally makes Regent's true feelings like inaccessible to us in a way that kind of mirrors the fact that like he's such a he's almost like a cipher to himself. He doesn't feel anything and he doesn't understand why or what he should be feeling. Mm-hmm. And it reminded me also of Lisa's interlude, which was so tantalizing and full of like a little bit of her past, but not getting into like her trigger event or any of that stuff, and not really getting into her real feelings about Taylor, and really also keeping us at a little bit of a remove in a way that felt very in keeping with her personality of like, oh, she's very like agreeable, but she's not like letting you in all the way. Like we didn't get to go in all the way in Lisa's head in the same way that here we're kind of being kept in this state of dissonance with truly understanding who this guy is.
But we also get so much more about him than we do about, we didn't get any of Lisa's childhood.
Oh, yeah. I guess what I'm saying is it resists, despite the fact that we are getting their perspective, it resists solving them as characters. Yeah, so there's going to continue to be narrative
which is
tension.
so good. Yeah. The thing that just occurred to me feels really obvious, but also I feel like it's complicated by his childhood. So like there's a little bit of, confounding factors. It really does feel like his ability to step into other people's bodies and feel their emotions has muted his ability to feel his own in the same way that Bitch's power has muted her ability to read human body language.
Yeah.
And, sort of communicate with other people. Like that occurred to me and I'm like, oh yeah, that does, like I think that's probably what's going on. Like it's not just his upbringing. It's also that his power has changed his brain in this way.
Yeah. He also leaves that door open. He says like, well, is it my power? Is it my experiences? And I think it's definitely both.
Yeah.
I think you're absolutely right about that interpretation. I was also keying on to what he said about pain.
Yeah.
We know that it's incredibly uncomfortable to be dissipated in her shadow form for Shadowstalker. And he's like, it didn't bother me at all. And that's such an interesting protection mechanism that his power offers. Is sort of like, I'll give you all of the like exciting stuff, but not the stuff that will actually drive you away from using your power, which feels like a very calculated move or like a well-calibrated move to be like, yeah, it'll be strictly better to be in someone else's body if you use your power, Regent.
Yeah. Yeah. It is extremely tempting, even though he never seems to feel tempted. I can see how he would really miss this, and it would be hard to live without it once you'd had it. Yeah. And the fact that he is living without it seems like, it's hard to use the word admirable for anything about him, but I'm like, oh yeah, that is actually kind of a huge thing that he's not doing that.
Yeah.
I also just want to see him controlling an Endbringer now.
Well, didn't we learn?
No, he said it probably wouldn't work, but, like, we don't know.
Yeah, but, like, do they have a nervous system? I feel like Lisa was like...
We just need to get the Endbringers to sit still for 3 hours and we'll be fine.
Yeah.
No, but you're right that it probably wouldn't work on them. They're not people. It seems like he can only control people, though. Have we seen him try with an animal? I don't know.
We don't know.
Oh my god, what if he tried with Bitch's dogs? Bitch would be so furious.
That's true. That's really interesting, actually.
What if he did it with Bitch's dogs and she didn't know?
How would she know?
How would she know? They're not going to tell her. He could control them some of the time and act dog-like, and they would seem the same when he let them go. What if he controls
one of Taylor's bugs at a pivotal moment? Yeah, it doesn't really come up. My feeling would be like, well, only people. Like, I think, but maybe it's not. Maybe it's any nervous system.
I mean, now I want it to turn out that he's been controlling Bitch's dogs in fights and stuff all this time.
That undermines Bitch's character. She's so good at controlling them, and Regent's there like, do you know how hard it is to be 5 dogs? Just going back a topic, I am strongly reminded of something that one of my friends said to me. He had to get some procedure that meant that he was given some really good painkillers. Mm-hmm. He had just moved to Amsterdam and was, I guess, able to get something that he never had before. And, we're in our 30s now. And I just remember him coming to us and being like, oh my God, I took these painkillers. And I suddenly feel like my legs feel incredible. My back doesn't hurt. Like, my shoulders feel amazing. I had no idea how much, like I don't feel
chronic,
like I'm in
but
pain
not exactly, normally.
But all this chronic pain. And then he was like, this is great. I'm going to have this one really good day, and I'm getting rid of the rest of these painkillers. It's like, I understand the temptation. Yeah. He was just like, he's like,
Regent
I've never
can't
wanted
get rid of his power.
But it was just like, for him, it was like such a dramatic, like, I've never experienced anything like this, but I get it. Like, I would, if I could do this without the downsides that I know about, 100%. Right. Yeah. And like, that is, I feel like, what is really well communicated in this chapter. And that's why that's the part of it that feels very human. That just like, of course you want to feel good. And this is how he can feel good.
We talked early on about how having a power can be like having a loaded gun you can't get rid of, that you can't be stripped of. And in his case, it is like having a pocket full of heroin that he can't, throw out to keep from taking.
Oh my God.
But
it's like the Miss Militia power. Wherever you go, you always have some heroin.
He has like mind control heroin. Yeah. And he is deciding that the downsides in general, not in this chapter, obviously, but the downsides don't outweigh the upsides. And I'm just so curious what that calculus is for him because we don't get it here.
Yeah.
Is it at all conscience-based? Is it just logistical?
And that's another thing that I think makes the chapter compelling, is that because Wildbow isn't trying with a really heavy hand to make us feel one way or the other, I feel like readings of this chapter where I think we had slightly different reactions on the first read, but I think readings where you're like, this guy's a monster, and readings where you're like, this guy is a fascinating, like, sort of like tragic figure, right? Like, I feel like the chapter is not that opinionated on that question and intentionally does not stack it so that, like, someone can come to you with citations and be like, well, because Regent thinks this and this, that means he's a good. And someone's like, no, because Regent thinks this, he's a bad, right? I feel like it's very good that it resists easy interpretation.
Yeah, and my question would really be, like, what direction is he moving in? And and I don't know.
Yeah.
I really want him to move in the direction of good, but
what would it take?
I know, what would it take? Especially because he is so emotionally compromised, I think, by his power and also by his past. And he's not going to be able to take sort of the normal human emotional routes to, bonding with people and discovering the power of love or whatever. I don't know,
Yeah.
He already knows what it's like to be other people. So, can't get lessons in empathy. Exactly.
Well, okay,
but he only knows their physical feelings.
But now I want to ask you, and I have to just go full poker face. I want you to think about
What it would take?
No, not what it would take, but like, where do you see Regent going as a character? You had sort of said you don't see him becoming the big bad.
I don't think so.
Right. But
yeah.
but you could imagine maybe that's one extreme, right? And like maybe the other extreme is like somehow this fully redemptive thing where we're sort of asking like, what would it take? But like, I'm wondering, like, given this point, where does Worm take Regent? Like, what do you think? What would you find compelling? What would you want to see?
Yeah. I think what's coming to my mind as the most likely course for him is sort of the quiet betrayer.
Uh-huh.
Like,
you've been suspicious of him the whole time.
That's actually true. You know, I've been correct. I've been correct to be suspicious of him.
But he's actually, like,
he's
doing
loyal.
it for the team.
No, that's true.
Yeah.
That's true. So maybe I wasn't correct. But for him, it would almost be fun. I'm going to spoil Buffy season 5 for people.
Yeah.
So Buffy is fighting this hugely powerful god who's in the body of a human man. And the god kind of disappears. She gets beat up too badly and reverts to her human male form. Buffy could kill this human man if she wanted to and kind of save the world. But she's like, go away. I never want to see you again. And he's like, yes, we'll never bother you again. I promise. And she leaves. And then Giles, her like human mentor who doesn't have any superpowers and is like the books guy, comes and is like, yeah, she's a hero. She's not like the rest of us, and suffocates him to death.
Yeah.
And it's such a good moment. And I feel like that's what Alec could be to Taylor.
Yeah.
If Taylor's like, there's an action I could take that would result in some utilitarian good, but that action is too horrible.
Yeah.
Alec is the one who would make that choice and do that.
Yeah.
Maybe she wouldn't even know about it.
Exactly.
Maybe she would, and she would feel betrayed and horrified, but there's nothing she can do to stop it.
Yeah.
That's what I want for him. It's not necessarily an evil ending, but it's a brutal ending, a ruthless ending.
Yeah.
And there would be something tragic about it because he'd have to make himself into that monster. And he'd be doing it sort of like he does in this chapter. He's like, I recognize this intellectual good reason, therefore I will do this thing. But the thing itself is so horrible.
Yeah, I think you really hit on it, that his potential as a foil for Taylor is enormous. And it's so funny that they have the same power, right? Like, it's just that
they're masters.
Naturally, we care about what Regent does in a way that we don't care about what Taylor does.
That did not occur to me. Those poor bugs.
Well, but I mean, of course not. They're just bugs. They're the perfect soldiers. They're so disposable, right?
Wow. She's basically just controlling.
And of course, there's so many other things, right? Like, he can't multitask the way she can, which is an interesting limitation on his power, right? He says he's done up to 4 puppets at once, but also he said he had help from his family, and who knows, maybe some of those people were like totally brainwashed by Heartbreaker.
Or drugs or whatever,
who knows? We don't know what the rest of his family can do.
And he was probably in close range with them. So.
Right. But he talks about how hard it is to sort of maintain control. And I guess his radius is longer than Taylor's, right? It's like
very long,
it's across the whole city. And she doesn't have any emotional connection to her bugs. She gets their sensory experiences, but to the extent that they feel anything, she is unaware of it.
Okay, well, that's a good question. Oh, I guess she doesn't get their pain if they die?
I think actually she does, but she doesn't care.
Can kind of filter it out.
Yeah, she ignores it.
I think she does get their emotional responses, quote unquote. It's just that they don't have any.
Well, that's what I'm saying. That's what,
yeah. But she does get the same physical feedback that Regent gets from his people. It's just much, much simpler.
Yeah. Then I don't know. Like, I don't know about the voluntary, involuntary. Her power might be better if she has control over sort of involuntary stuff the bugs can do. That's an interesting
say she
nuance.
Switched on the bugs, like mating cycles, like for the Black Widow. So she
her
might actually have, her power. She's more powerful. Wait, okay. So we have Regent at one end and Skitter at the other in terms of complexity of animals that they control. Who's in the middle?
Yeah.
We know Bitch isn't. She's actually not a master at all. Or is she? She's like she changes other things. I forget what we said, what category she was in.
Well, she would be a shaker, right? Because that's changing her environment.
Yes.
and a thinker because of how good she is at reading body language.
Yeah, okay.
Right.
Yeah, some minor thinker powers.
But in terms of how you fight her, she has minions. So she's a master.
Yes, right. But it's not the
we're putting
power.
on our director Armstrong
right.
hats
It's not
here.
the power in the middle. I'm curious
you're pointing
who has
out
all the other
that
levels.
Taylor and Regent are more similar, which I think is correct.
Yes.
Yeah.
And just in terms of the mechanism of how their power does the thing.
Another thing about the construction of this chapter that I really liked was when Wildbow explicitly says it's kind of like a scary movie. Because I really I also think part of what makes this effective horror is that being in Regent's head as he does this to Sophia makes you complicit in it, right? Like in a way
especially because I was rooting for him for most of the chapter.
No, of course. But this is also what was so innovative about the movie Halloween, as I understand it, is there's the beginning is sort of shot from the perspective of Michael Myers as he's walking around the house, peering in through the window, right? That killer's point of view is what was so exciting to theater goers and sort of off-putting to people who were pearl clutching about the slasher genre is right. It's well, what are you doing? Glorifying violence as Sophia's mom says in this chapter. But this is what we like. And I love horror movies, right? I loved this chapter, right?
I tolerate horror movies sometimes. I did enjoy this chapter a lot.
So I guess I just really liked that pointing out the very relatable way in which we do often get off on the negative emotions of others.
Yeah.
And
those strong emotions. I mean, I read a lot of angst with a happy ending. I make that angst strong.
Yeah, exactly. So it's, I really just like that. I really like that Wildbow put it in there. Because I had taken some notes about that being subtext. And then he says it. And I was like, oh, okay, cool. I can just bring this up.
This is just making me think now about how sometimes my writing friends and I talk about how we're torturing our characters. And we're like, ooh, what are we going to do to them today?
Yeah.
And then we kind of joke about we sound so sadistic.
Yeah. I mean, and of course, just to say it, Wildbow's the one who's really puppeting Regent.
That's true.
Who's puppeting Sophia,
wow. Wildbow is controlling way more than 4 people in this story right now.
That's so true. The thing I wanted to say about Regent, though, just on the theme of how sad he is as a character in this story, is the way he wins is that he's I know at this point, after the suicide attempt and all of the damage he's done to her civilian life, that he can feel that she has no anger left. She only has fear left. And that's why he has won. He has become his father in this moment, controlling someone else through fear.
Yeah.
And he is demonstrating the type of control that Bakuda only dreamed of. The sort of I'm going to put a bomb in your head and make you do what I want to do.
Yeah.
Right. But just this...
Regent in your head is much worse than a bomb.
Yeah. And... just to go back to your point about Regent being a foil for Taylor, he kind of already did the secret betrayal. It is kind of this chapter, right?
No, you're right.
Because Taylor doesn't know about it, and we hope she wouldn't approve, right?
She would definitely not approve.
Maybe she would see the bright, clear line, right? But
no.
But this is absolutely that, and Taylor is left as Buffy was in that moment, thinking, let's say that Sophia drops out of the story for a bit, or for the whole story, because of what Regent does here, then Taylor's going to be okay, yeah.
That worked. Yeah.
Right? And we didn't have to go any further than I approved. And Regent here is saying, actually, we do have to go farther. For what
will happen later on a larger scale. Who knows? So we've talked about Alec a lot. We haven't actually talked much about Sophia.
Yeah.
Let's do it. Let's get into it.
Well, I was curious. You said, and you've been very consistent at hating Sophia, and she's very hateable. But you said something now you finally got there, right? By the time she was tearing up.
Yes. And largely it was about her relationship with her mom that got me there.
Yeah.
We don't really get to see it at its best in this chapter.
No, certainly not. But we'd sort of been keeping the door open as to like, well, maybe something in Sophia's life explains why she's like this. And we got not any definitive answers here, but a lot of teasing and things where you can kind of color in some details.
Yeah. It seems like she has had a tough family life in some ways. There was someone called Stephen. Mm-hmm. Seems like maybe a stepfather, a mom's boyfriend figure who was terrible in some way that we don't find out.
Yeah.
And her mom seems to be actively involved in Sophia's life, perhaps in a positive way, perhaps in a more neutral way.
It's subtle, but I want to point out, I guess the non-subtle thing is that Sophia's mom hits her, which is not a good sign, to say the least.
Yeah, no.
Right? That really makes me skeptical of a lot of the other stuff that she says. But the detail in particular that I latched onto is when she's basically giving her little speech about how I do everything in this family.
You don't get to be bored. Yeah.
Right. When she says, every time you get in trouble at school, I show up. I've been to every school meeting. And we know that's not true, right?
Do we, though? Do we know her mom is black?
I guess we don't. I
read that. I was like, oh, is her mom because it was a blonde woman, right?
Yeah.
It's like, is her mom the blonde woman? Because if she shows up to all this stuff, like, maybe she was there. Maybe Sophia is, half black, half white, mixed race of some kind. And we don't necessarily know that.
I guess that is true. It does seem like...
Alec might have remarked on it, though.
It does seem like the kind of thing... And I don't want to lean too hard into this, but I would say something that seems to be true of the way Worm is written, and this is a thing that I think a lot of white writers do, is like really have a default white assumption and going out of their way to comment on, this such and such person was black. And we've had some like very specific racial descriptions in the text so far. And so it does feel like it's not commented on upon here intentionally, but I feel like that supports the argument that they're all black.
Yeah, I do feel like if there were like a blonde lady in this house that Alec assumes is Sophia's home, he'd be like, oh, is this her? Oh, I guess
and
this
the
is
implication with Taylor being like, this blonde lady doesn't look like her mom is like not being open to the idea that Sophia...
I mean, Taylor might not know. But,
right. But so then for Regent to be like, oh, well, I'm not going to comment on this, and for Taylor to comment on it.
Right. For Taylor to make the assumption it's not her mom, but for that not to cross Regent's mind.
It feels unnecessary.
That's a good point. So maybe she doesn't always show up.
I'll own it. I did not once consider that.
Yeah. But then who was it? Was it Miss Militia?
I assume it's like a PRT, administrator.
Oh, yeah, it could just be another administrator. That makes sense.
Yeah, because the vibe, now that we know her secret, that she's a ward, the vibe I get from the person in that meeting is like, I'm here to make sure that, Sophia doesn't
smooth things over.
Yeah, more discipline or discipline that's going to mess up her time in the wards. But we also know the wards were like mad about that meeting being called. And that fits the kind of like very Cole's demeanor.
Yeah. Yeah.
I also get the sense that if that had been Sophia's mom, the mom that we see in this chapter is like, I don't want you glorifying violence. Right. This woman doesn't know that Sophia is a terrible bully, right?
Ooh, well, then what is she being called into for Sophia getting into trouble at school? Maybe she doesn't want to glorify violence because she knows that Sophia is a bully. Or she thinks Sophia is doing violent, like, kind of bad kid stuff.
I mean, I think she's talking about, like, the probationary ward side of things,
that is specifically what she's talking about. She got in trouble being,
I don't know, or maybe she has been to other things, or maybe she went to something and, there's a lot that we don't know, and I feel like all I meant to say was... making the assumptions I was making, this reads to me as a tell that to a careful reader, you're supposed to be like, oh, this woman is talking out of her ass a little bit in terms of like how good she says she's been to Sophia. But there's a lot we don't know. There's a lot we don't know. And so I guess I'm equally guilty of reading things into the text that aren't there. But that's at least what I got as a rereader, being like, oh, this,
she's
She's not a great mom.
A couple of things that were really surprising to me about her that I'm not really sure how to parse, and might just be like idiosyncratic stuff about her life history. So she objects to Sophia being a ward, not because it's dangerous, because she doesn't want to glorify violence.
I think that's why...
such a weird objection.
Well, I think that's why it's like, don't bring it home.
Right, but like also, your sister is a cape and you don't want her siblings to know, especially the one who's like an adult, basically.
Yeah.
Like, what a thing to ask Sophia to hide from her siblings. I mean, the 4-year-old, like, whatever, but her brother who's like, you know, a late teen. That's kind of a lot to ask. And also the objection, like, I feel like if I were going to be a superhero, my parents would be worried I'd get hurt.
Right.
They would think like, oh, this is obviously a good thing to do, but I don't want you in these dangerous situations. And what her mom thinks is, this is not a good thing to do, being a hero, because it glorifies violence. Like, that's a perspective we haven't seen in the story before.
Yeah. The way that I parse it is more like, she's like, maybe more of a, she wrote off Sophia because of stuff that she did and got in trouble for. Like, you were this bad kid going out beating people up. Maybe she even knows about someone Sophia's killed. And it's like, you deserve to be put away. And now she's in this probationary wards program. And it's kind of like...
Oh, so it's more like she gets to be a hero because she did bad stuff and she doesn't want the siblings to take that lesson? Yeah, okay.
So, you know, again, reading a lot between the lines here, but...
No, I buy that.
I also, to me, the glorifying violence thing is like, it does strike me as like, oh, that's a big idea, and then it doesn't get really explored.
So, no, it's true.
You know, so I think, again, there's a lot of stuff that you could read into it. But I feel like the impression I got was this sense of superiority, or the mom kind of having this very simplistic I'm good, you're bad attitude, and you should know your place. And I want to connect that to something that comes up later when Regent is preparing Sophia's room and like probing into her backstory a little bit. He says, you sure rose above that shit, treating your classmates like you do, getting in fights, not helping out dear old mom. And then he says, again, he had to struggle to maintain control as she exploded with emotion. And that thing that he says to her is the same weak spot that Vista found. The sort of like a little bit, you know, holier than thou, like, you're not a good person, right? Like that kind of like the earth, yeah, and I wanted to bring that up as like Regent found that and connecting that, but now I'm wondering if like she gets some of that from her relationship with her mom,
right? Maybe what she was reacting to is not helping out dear old mom. Maybe she's actually furious with her mom.
And I think the Stephen thing, Regent plays with, you know, like, oh, you know, did he touch you or something?
Obvious interpretations. Did he hit you?
That doesn't trigger anything. And then he thinks to himself, like, oh, maybe it was like emotional abuse or verbal or some other thing. And I was thinking, we talked about ideas for Sophia's trigger event, and that kind of like... It must
have been about him,
but the dissociation thing that you had talked about of like the idea of like he was someone who she was supposed to be able to trust, who suddenly she can't trust anymore, or needing to escape from a terrible situation.
I wonder if it was a situation of, I mean, I'm just spitballing. We could come up with a million theories probably for what he actually did. Like, I wonder if he's someone who actually was a positive presence and left. Like, either, you know, got himself arrested or just took off or committed suicide.
Yeah.
Which would make that a particular sore spot. Or I wonder if he hurt someone else in the family, if he hurt the mom.
Yeah, I was thinking more along the lines of like somebody who gave off bad vibes, or maybe initially gave off good vibes, you know, sort of like, oh, well, mom loves him, but he treats the rest of us terribly. Or, you know, somebody who can like switch it on and off, you know, depending on whether her mom is around. We have that detail of in the family photo, her mom is the only one smiling. Right. And Stephen is
no, that's a good point, actually. Right. Okay, so probably he was not a good presence while he was there.
Yeah. And so, again, we don't get enough, and it's really strong writing, I feel, to give us these details, but not like spell it out. Like I enjoy that we get to have a couple
There's
of little morsels
like
to play
unplumbed
with.
depths. Like you're just seeing the tip of the iceberg. And also it's the like scariest monster's the one you don't see kind of thing.
Yeah.
You're like, oh, there's something terrible that happened. But
yeah, and it's also the way that it plays with our sympathies as it comes to Sophia is if it was all spelled out and we had like a flashback scene of Sophia and Stephen, it would be much easier for anyone to be like, yeah, but Sophia deserves it. Like, that's all it was, right? Like, I'm not saying Wildbow couldn't write something that would definitely get us on her side, but I feel like sort of the ambiguity is like what's happening here is finally in the story, we've opened up this window into Sophia's home life, and we're left wanting more in a way that makes us feel bad for her, right? It doesn't really excuse any of the bullying or any of the stuff that she's done to people as Shadow Stalker, but it really humanizes her more than she has been so far. And I really love that we only get a little bit here at the end.
It's funny. I was just thinking through my reactions. I feel like she doesn't deserve the body puppeting, like puppeteering. But I felt like she deserved all of the effects of it up to the point where he was about to kill her. I felt like she deserved to have all her teachers see her texts with Emma. Yeah. I felt like she kind of deserved to have her home life blown up for like just how crappy she's being to people. Like she's hurting a lot of people. She deserves to be hurt in this way.
Yeah.
And then at the end, I finally came around on, okay, but she doesn't deserve to die. And particularly, she doesn't deserve to die in a way that's really going to hurt her family.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that was what tipped it for me. I did, like, sort of in an abstract sense, like, okay, yeah, this probably explains a lot about who she is, like the situation with Stephen, whatever it is. But I don't know that I was feeling bad for her about that yet. Or at least I wasn't feeling like what Alec was doing to her was going too far yet.
Yeah. To me, the scene with her mom is horrible because Sophia is not herself, right? Like, it's like, I actually...
It is horror, yeah.
Right, like, if Sophia was blowing up her home life with her mom, I would be like, oh, this is great. Like, this is delicious schadenfreude, right? Like, she's making things so much worse for herself. But the fact that Regent is doing it and playing out all of this stuff in a fake way, like the invasion of privacy there and the fact that it's a Sophia doppelganger and not the real girl is terrifying. And then the implication, of course, at the end when Regent starts saying, and they'll never know it wasn't you. Yeah. Like, really
that's
made my
what really
blood
got
run
me,
cold. Yeah. Because, right, again, it's like, oh, well, you get body snatched, and then, well, eventually you can say, hey, I was body snatched, and everyone knows that Regent did all that stuff, and it wasn't me. But the idea that no one will get that closure, that this is a secret that will be taken to Sophia's grave.
Decide to keep.
Right.
That was some good logic that he brought out at the end there. It would hurt Pigo's cause to have this kind of thing get out.
That really underlines it.
Yeah, it is a really haunting thought, this idea of someone in your body trampling on your relationships. Mm-hmm. I mean, again, while reading it, I was not on Sophia's side. Mm-hmm. She still had too much, karmic debt in the story for me to root for her. Yeah. Or for me to, like, be indignant on her behalf, even. But it is just a completely horrible thought. Yeah.
Do you want to talk about the other relationship that gets tampered with in this chapter?
Yeah. I mean, it's funny. I don't actually even know how much that one is going to have been damaged. One of my main takeaways from that is that, like, Regent's not actually a good actor.
Yeah, I know.
Like, the stuff with the mom, I feel like that's not a super close relationship was my impression. So certainly the mom was shocked and was like, what are you saying? What are you doing? You're threatening me? Like, this is so unexpected. But, like, I feel like Emma instantly was like, are you joking? This is a dumb joke. What is that? This doesn't make any sense. Yeah. Like, call me back when you're ready to drop this. Like, Emma was just like, this isn't real. This isn't... So I feel like if Sophia calls Emma and is like, yeah, I was body snatched, Emma will be like, oh, that makes sense. Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah, it's really funny how ineffective it is. Yeah, like, he tries to make Sophia sound into her and he makes it sound sarcastic. Then he's like, okay, I'll just be quiet.
No sincerity.
Yeah.
He tries to apologize for calling her so late, and he's like, ooh, yeah,
Right, that's what
sarcastic.
it is. That's what it is.
I don't know how to do a sincere apology. Oops.
Yeah. And I think, you were saying, like, who has Sophia loved? It seems pretty clear that that's not the relationship that Sophia and Emma have.
No. That I think was clear to me in her.
I think if you really wanted to see something there, maybe Emma's into Sophia and is saying, this is a prank, but call me back when you're really serious about us. But I think that's a stretch.
Yeah, I don't buy it.
Yeah. The fact that this is so comically inept on Regent's part really blows apart any potential tension in that relationship, right? It really just seems like a dumb crank call. At least that's how Emma will receive it.
Okay, but let's talk about the texts. We get to read a bunch of their texts.
The saved texts. Did you ever save texts?
No.
I never saved texts.
I've never saved a text.
It's tough to relate to, but...
I used to save AIM conversations.
I do have, so maybe like 9th grade emails and downloaded AIM transcripts, for sure.
But not a specific text. I don't even know how to do that.
To me, this is like... For some reason it reads, and again, I never saved text, so I don't know, this could be way off base, but it almost feels like she's keeping trophies. Like, she's like, oh my god, this is the best, and I just want to eventually go through my saved text and be like, haha, remember those great times when I bullied Taylor? Right? It's kind of like a, serial killer keeping trophies or something like that. Okay,
but the text that I was intrigued by, and actually don't even quite understand, so I would like your help parsing. Sophia says, can't believe you were her friend to Emma about Taylor. And Emma says she was lame, but not depressing and lame at the same time. I don't understand she was lame, but not depressing and lame.
But not depressing and lame at the same time.
Oh.
Like she's saying Taylor was always like a nerd or kind of boring or whatever.
Yeah.
But what changed for me is that she was so depressing. After her mom died, presumably.
Interesting. I mean,
There's certainly a lot of, like, in retrospect, right, she probably didn't think Taylor was lame, quote unquote, when they were friends, but this is her post hoc description.
I'm still trying to tease out, like, what the heck happened to that relationship, and I still feel like there has to be more.
Yeah, we get, like, barely a crumb.
Yeah, this is barely a crumb.
I feel like one thing we do get, though, is Sophia was being such a bad friend to Emma when she called her in her interlude. Like, saying, like, oh, these people, these wards, dumb, talking about clothes,
Cushy lifestyles. Where are you? Yeah. Portland? Shopping? Yeah.
But I feel like the dynamic here does make them seem, again, friends. Sophia has pictures of Emma on the wall. Friends. And then Sophia's texts are actually very much pumping up Emma. They're admiring, they're positive.
Teach me, oh master.
Yeah, exactly. It's sort of like they're both having great ideas, but this is very much a conversation between equal mean girls. Oh,
definitely. Yeah. So then Regent sends all those texts to all of... I guess there are also more texts. To all of Sophia's teachers and to the police.
Yes.
Who, like, on the one hand, I'm like, yes. On the other hand, I'm like, are the police going to care right now?
I know.
School isn't in session.
I know.
But I guess copying the police probably will make the teachers take it more seriously when school is back in session.
Yeah. I mean, what he really needs is, like, the local crank journalist, right? Like, he needs this to hit the tabloids to really make, the PRT do damage control.
I feel like just at this time in Brockton Bay, this is such small potatoes. That it's gonna carry them a little bit.
I think it is, though. We know from Pigo that, phase 2, Operation Weld, is very important to them. And Regent's point is, like, this is another canary. Like, I'm another canary. The fact that, this was allowed to happen, it can't get out, right? Like, he's sort of saying it would be so bad for everything they want.
I think also, if Sophia is the one that Pico's like, yeah, look at this, like, girl who was, like, a bad girl, and she's, like, so pretty, and, like, if we can make her into this, like, hero, that would be so good.
Probationary boards program.
Yeah. And
the idea of reforming villains.
Yes. And if it comes out like, oh yeah, while she was a probationary ward, she was sending these like vicious bullying texts. Like if that ever got out, like that would be a huge...
And again, if they ever find out Sophia doesn't find out in this chapter that Skitter is Taylor.
No, that's true.
I loved that detail.
Yeah.
It's amazing. That's another, I was talking earlier about like secrets being kept. It's also so satisfying in a way that pin never drops in this chapter. Because Regent's like, you fucked with my teammate, and she's able to stammer out,
like, Gru?
And he's like, no, whatever. Right. And he moves on to the next thing. Right. And so again, to me, it's like, even if all of the Shadowstalker stuff like came out, I just feel like if somebody found out the wards created the supervillain Skitter, like that is
through bullying.
That is the PR nightmare scenario for Vigo.
Yeah. I think it's so funny that she doesn't know, but like, I think it would take so much for it to occur to her because she has Taylor in such a different mental category. She's this like pathetic little victim. I think it would actually be an enormous blow to her worldview to find out that Taylor was Skitter.
Of course.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because she has strong relationships with both people at this point, both Skitter and Taylor.
Right. And they're very different relationships. And the idea that this girl she's bullying could have set her up for this would be completely devastating.
I thought it was interesting that we don't get Regent connecting any dots about Taylor and her bullies explicitly in the chapter. The most that he says is Taylor had let the name Sophia slip, which I don't think happened on screen.
No.
So the idea is like, you know, at some point, either leading up to the Shadowstalker thing or debriefing about the hospital or after they got her under control, Taylor refers to Shadowstalker as Sophia, and Regent starts thinking, well, that's weird. And then he's kind of clever enough to put together this idea of like, maybe Taylor knew Sophia before, right? Like, and so
it did seem like it was being confirmed for him as he looked through the text, because I wasn't sure, and I'm still not entirely sure whether Taylor had told.
That's true. But I think the let something slip and the fact that he doesn't know for sure, right? I feel like there's an implication here that he's figuring something out that wasn't told to him explicitly. But I feel like we are kept in the dark about that because it would be, again, too much to have Regent have a paragraph about like, oh my God, these are Taylor's bullies. Oh my God, her trigger event was so bad. Oh my God, I need to take revenge for Taylor, right?
That's too much emotion for him.
Exactly. So like the logic part of it also kind of has to happen in the background, and we don't get enough to really know how Regent feels, quote unquote, about it. Mm-hmm. So we've now set up, with the stuff that we've talked about, the suicide note that he writes for her at the end.
Mm-hmm. Terribly written note. He's also not a good... I mean, it just didn't feel like there was no sense of pathos there. It was very blunt, like, I hurt my mom. I hurt my classmates as Sophia. I hurt people as Shadowstalker, and I hate myself for enjoying it. Like, it just doesn't feel real. It feels fake the way the confession to Emma felt fake. The thing that struck me both about that note, but even more so about the conversation with Emma, is a thing that I think about a lot in writing, is that the more important a piece of information is to someone, like emotionally important, the less easy it will be for them to say it.
Yeah.
So if they say it too easily, it feels fake. It feels like the emotion behind it is fake.
Yeah.
And of course, the emotion behind these is fake. He is faking being Sophia, and he's not good at doing that imitation.
Yeah.
If she were really confessing to Emma, like feelings of love, she wouldn't just say it like that. She wouldn't just come out and say it. That's just not how people do that.
Yeah.
And the baldness of the note also, it just feels like too much of a boring summary of the situation.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't make it feel like there's real tortured emotion behind it.
Yeah. I agree with that. I wouldn't have thought to put it like that, but I think there's a real through line there that he's bad at this.
I mean, he doesn't understand feeling feelings, right?
Right. Well, so I wanted to bring in one other thing. Right before this, after he says, like, you sure rose above that, he says, you and I are more alike than you'd suspect, I think. We're both arrogant assholes, yeah? Difference is, I admit it. I don't dress it up and tell myself that I'm a bitch and that's a good thing. Which I thought was a fascinating statement, him looking for this commonality in the two of them. And my thought about the note is like, how much of it is him calculatedly trying to write a good note, and whether it's more like role play for him, almost like he wants to act out the way that he can feel other people's bodies and feel their emotions, that he's trying to express something in the way that he blows up the relationship with Emma, the conversation with the mom, writing the suicide note, that he's trying to say, like, to act in a way that is like a person with feelings would act. And that it's very telling that the thing that he's effective at is playing the defiant kid finally standing up to a tyrannical parent, because that's more grounded in his life experience. And also maybe some of the emotions that, you know, the anger that she's expressing there, maybe those are more natural to him. The other thing that I was thinking about pushing that even further is how much of the suicide note is not just role play, but like a confession on his part. That he sees something in Shadowstalker that reminds him of himself, and he understands intellectually what is bad about himself and the things that he's done. And when he says, I hurt people as Shadowstalker and I hate myself for enjoying it, is he taking an opportunity to express something that he thinks he should feel about himself?
He might think he should feel it. It is interesting because it's the kind of literary device that could play that role, I feel like, at a different point in a character's story. Like, Alec has not been broken open by anything that has happened. Like, it doesn't feel like he is in the middle of a change arc. Because if he were, then writing this kind of note, it would be like, oh yeah, what he's literally saying is what Sophia's done, but you can tell what he's expressing is like what he's done and his guilt about that. But I don't feel like he's there. Like, that's just not what I was getting from him in any other way. But you did point out, like, it's what he thinks he should feel about. And that is a sentiment we do get from him. He's like, he's more annoyed that he doesn't feel worse for Taylor because he knows that he should. Right. And he says, like, I don't really feel this thing where I should get revenge for my teammate, but I feel like I should. I think I should. I think
that's why it's badly written. Like, I think you're absolutely right, because it's easy for him to be like, yeah, I'm a monster who tortures people and I like it.
Yeah.
And that's bad. And he writes down, when I'm Regent, I feel bad. You know, I should feel bad about hurting those people. Yeah. I feel bad when I hurt people. You know, like, and I don't have necessarily a read on Regent about, like, why he goes to the love confession. We don't know enough about him to really connect that to something that maybe he's experienced or not.
We know that he has experienced love as a devastating emotion in other people, just like with all these women around his dad.
Right.
Like, love as something that can be really destructive and cause horrible tensions when it's not returned, you know.
Oh, that's so true.
I feel like that's probably his go-to because he's seen so much of that. And he probably has felt that in other people. It seems like he inhabited a lot of bodies before he came to Brockton Bay, and he's probably felt sort of the intensity of that. Like, it feels like it's a very readily accessed piece of his, toolbox.
Yeah.
Which makes sense to me.
I think that you are right that this is not genuine catharsis or synthesis for him.
I don't think he is changed by this chapter.
No. I think that there's a question in my mind about how will he be different now that he's gotten a taste for using his power again?
That might be a thing, yes.
But not so much making any progress on his emotions and lack of emotions. And the thing about Regent, both in his past behavior and I think even in this chapter, is that he has emotions, but he doesn't understand them or, like, react to them in a way that makes sense.
He doesn't have no emotions, but it does seem like his emotional depth is very limited. Like, there's something that's kind of muted there. Because it's not that he doesn't understand. Like, he experiences other people's emotions and kind of knows what they are and can guess at what they stand for, what they mean. He just doesn't really experience that in his own body to such an extent.
I guess what I see in this chapter is the sort of capriciousness with which he goes through this plan, and a lot of the beats with him tormenting Sophia seems very emotionally driven. He, in getting to this, like, he's a bad actor thing, I wonder if he's a bad actor, but also, like, a theater kid at heart, because there was something, like, he keeps talking about how, like, when he has Sophia gasp dramatically, like, she can do that and he can't, right? And it's like he tried out a giggle. And he's like, oh, I can pull off a giggle. And then there's the bit where, like, he cackles maniacally, which is also just very, like, you know, mask off supervillain coded. But that all feels like...
No, I think you're right. It's driven by her emotions. He's like an emotion vampire drinking her emotions in this. Yeah. He's like, ooh, the intensity of these feelings that she's having. Like, this is the kind of internal drama he doesn't get in his own body. Right.
Yeah, so I guess it's tough to say because it's kind of like what I was saying. We don't get to be in Regent's head when he's just Regent because there's no there, right? It would be terrible to read a chapter with no emotional depth.
No, I think it would be fascinating, actually. I would love to read that.
But I feel like from the outside, right, the way he gets incensed about hearing about Taylor's trigger event.
That's true, right? Yeah. No, okay, yeah, he doesn't have no emotions,
like, there are things that he reacts to, and his range of responses are limited and things, but I also feel like another example, right? I guess maybe he knows he's not planning to kill her the whole time, but he resists the temptation of telling Sophia that Taylor is Skitter, which would be obviously a delicious set of emotions to feel, right? So, like, there's something in him, and maybe that's all super ego, for lack of a better word, that, like, he knows it would be wrong or unstrategic or whatever, but it could also be some, like, loyalty to Taylor. Oh, the moment that pings for me is he ends with, like, get the fuck out of my city.
Oh, true. He's angry, yeah.
Right, which is such, like, just why does Regent go to the Endbringer fight, right? Like, I feel like there's just something, and maybe he doesn't know that he feels it or what it feels like or something, but I do feel like there probably is somewhere in there a sense that, like, this is his place. He's gotten out from under his family's thumb, and he has some feelings of, like, protectiveness or, like, you know, he's built an identity. Maybe there are no emotions in the identity or something, but I do get these glimmers of, like, it feels just a lot like Taylor is a very rational person who rationalizes her emotions all the time. Regent clearly has fewer emotions and is much less connected, but I do feel like he is not being sort of burned out in your emotions. The way Regent is experiencing it is not the same as, like, being robotic and unfeeling, right? No, I feel like he's lost in something that he really doesn't understand well. And I feel like we do get little glimpses of what might be really going on emotionally with him in the way that he's acting.
What we also see in this chapter is him severing all of her relationships.
Yeah.
And what he's done in Brockton Bay, and he does own up to this, but only very tangentially, and he doesn't think about it directly at all. He hasn't built any relationships. He's like, yeah, Brian and I are kind of buddies. Like, maybe, like, but, you know, I don't have any real friends.
I know you're making a point, but I just want to say, I feel like I know some men who, by Regent's definition, don't have any friends.
Well,
right, this felt like a very male-coded, like, oh, roommates and coworkers, that's not a friend? I feel like,
Right, yes.
That's a tangent, but
no, that's true. But yeah, I do think his ability to trust human relationships, it's not something he thinks about at all, but it's something that's been really badly damaged. And I think that is the piece that would have to heal for him to be changed.
Yeah.
I also, when you were talking about him going to the Endbringer fight, the thing that he should do, he probably shouldn't do this, but the way that he could contribute to an Endbringer fight, if it turns out he cannot take over the nervous systems of the Endbringers, which would be reasonable, he should find a villain who's not planning to go. And puppeteer them.
Oh my god.
You'll have to do some advanced planning.
Yeah, that's great. That's great. Once you've proven that you will not be pro-social in that way,
exactly,
then, okay, it's like Birdcage or Regent. Pick your poison. One detail that I thought was really interesting is Regent does not express a preference between boys and girls. He slept with them all.
That is true.
So we
Maybe.
perhaps have a canonically queer character.
A few things about that. So, first of all, I feel like there's some ambiguity. This is not saying he's not queer, but there's some ambiguity about whether he has slept with anyone in his own body or not.
Oh, because I read that.
What he says is, let me find it. By the time he was a teenager, he'd experienced every kind of drug in someone else's body, had slept with himself as various boys and girls. It's possible that he means he made a puppet sleep with his own, Regent's body. It's also possible he just inhabited two people who were sleeping with each other. So he might not have slept with a boy as Regent.
That's fascinating. You're absolutely right that it's ambiguous.
Also, especially because he wasn't even a teenager, apparently, at that point, so...
Right. I see the alternate parsing of that sentence now, but it had never occurred to me. I always read it as... I had a boy sleep with me, Regent, and then I had a girl sleep with me, Regent.
Yeah. Well,
but you're right.
It's an interesting question. I mean, I think that being queer is more about, like you said, a preference, about attraction, about desire, than it is about history. So even if he has slept with boys as Regent, he may or may not feel like that's something that's a part of his desires. I actually would find it easier to believe that he doesn't experience sexual desire in his own body, just sort of tracking with his
it comes up, you're so young, you're still discovering your identity. So even if you're experimenting in a much more literal, way, given his power, than most people do with kissing boys, kissing girls, it doesn't necessarily mean you understand what your identity is either. And it's kind of again, it's the messed up fantasy of his power. It's I feel like as I learned about sexuality and stuff, I had multiple times where I was like, could I be attracted to men? And pretty much all the time, I'm like, I don't think so. It's like you sort of think about it, right? But it's like, if you are Regent, then you're like, yeah, I'll kiss a guy. Right? Yeah, exactly.
The other thing that I find really interesting as a question is if he is in the body, I guess not in the mind, but in the body of a straight woman or a woman who's attracted to men and experiences the desire for another man. In a sense, that's not him being queer, but it also kind of is. He can, if he wants to, experience the desire. Because I feel like desire is a physical emotion. He would get that even if he doesn't get the person's thoughts about it. Regardless of what he experiences in his own body, which, there's a whole range of possibilities.
This is a very stupid analogy, but it reminds me of when Marco in Animorphs morphs into a female wolf, and he has the teen boy reaction of no, I can't be a girl wolf. It's like, oh no, I puppeted a gay guy. Does that mean I'm gay?
Gay cooties.
But to your point,
he's almost genderqueer also, because he can sort of almost be, although I feel like gender lives a little less in the body than sexuality, probably. It's all kind of fuzzy, but...
And I mean, certainly with the identity piece of it, he has no community or real sense of himself. So it's really hard to put a label on that. And I don't mean to minimize what he does to Sophia. He definitely sexually assaults her with grabbing her breasts. But he doesn't, I think of her as she's so beautiful. I think she's attractive. Yeah. Right? Yeah. He talks about her being athletic and the performance high that he gets from using her body. And he's touching her as a way to make her feel negative emotions. But it's not, I guess it doesn't read to me as I
really wanted to touch these breasts. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's I guess what I'm saying is there's, even compared to Weld, who is oh, at least we've got some eye candy around here, right? I guess it's notable that Regent isn't thinking like that. And that's, I think, more in line with that's not top of mind for him in this kind of situation. I don't necessarily know that I want to, bring up all the examples, but I found the procedural details about putting together the suicide attempt, the way that he has to do some research online, just the way that it's dragged out is very affecting. And
he's so chill about it.
Yeah.
Planning a suicide with no emotion attached, no sense of urgency. Even
after all of that, you get him leading up to unless you can give me some kind of reason. And what does she say? Does she just say please, or does she?
Yeah, she says please.
she just says, please. And then he says, not that convincing, which is funny and shocking. And then he kicks the chair and like you think it's happened.
Yep.
And you get, like Sophia, you get that come down when he says, he chuckled lightly, feeling the confusion and the relief from his host. It was a thrill unlike any other. Which, this is like, you know, he's doing it to get off. Or he's getting off from doing it in a way, right? Like this manipulation here. It reminds me of Coil.
I was just going to say that.
Yeah, his unspeakable perversions that we don't know about.
That's not even the connection I was going to draw, but go on.
Oh, it also, I think, is connecting to the metatextual horror movie thing. This is something Wildbow is thinking as he's writing, perhaps, right? He wrote this scene, and he's like, they're all going to think I'm going to kill her, right? Like, and then this is him coming off the gas pedal.
Of the writer torturing the readers.
Like any other.
That's really funny. I was just going to say that I think Regent and Coil have something in common. I was thinking about how he's planning this suicide scene and there's like no stakes for himself. And both he and Coil have a stakes problem. Like they're able to do things in life without enough stakes attached. Like Coil can just have interactions with people.
You are so right.
And then he can just erase them like they never happened. And Regent can do things in other people's bodies and then leave their bodies and it doesn't affect his life. You
are so right.
Yeah, and I think that's the kind of thing that's not good for you. We need stakes.
Yeah, right. This is one of the principles behind power corrupts. Like without too much power, you don't have enough accountability, right?
Yeah.
You need systems of accountability.
You need the things you do to have potential consequences for your life, or you kind of just stop being able to be human in them.
Yeah.
I wonder, because Alec has been living in his own body for a year at this point, I wonder if there have been changes in him, if he has noticed, or maybe he just hasn't noticed, but like I wonder if being grounded in that way for a year has changed his character at all.
Yeah, that's fascinating. We don't really have any insight into who he was, you know.
No. And we don't know also, like you were saying, like, is this going to be a temptation for him? Like, he got the taste for it again. This is his drug, his power.
Right.
You know? It is lucky that he at least has a less intense version that he can use without kind of giving into this body snatching thing. Like, he doesn't have to choose between a normal life and using this power because he does have this sort of middle ground.
Yeah. I wonder if he could just like pay to borrow someone's dick and then get them off so that he can feel something.
Whoa.
We'll probably end up cutting that out of the episode.
Or could he charge people?
No, that's right.
To get them off, like their body is doing it, but they're not in charge. Like, I bet there are people who'd be into that.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, for the right price, he could be a very generous lover. You just let him in. He'll make you feel the best you've ever felt.
Yeah, that's fascinating because he would get all the feedback, but you wouldn't know what he's going to do.
Yeah.
I wonder also if there are people who would pay for him to pilot their body through, like, things they don't want to do. I mean, they'd still have to be there, but, like, something that they have to do, but they don't think they could get themselves to do it.
It would be so good for anyone with, like, ADHD or, you know, just like,
Please just focus. I need to do this thing.
Yeah, like, I need an accountability buddy to puppet me to the gym.
There it is. That's his money-making scheme. I will make you work out every day. You don't have to have any willpower about it.
Yeah.
He would be the best personal trainer.
Yeah.
Wow, missed opportunities. I mean, supervillainy is probably more lucrative, but I think that's the moral way to do it.
Yeah. I do think, I always talk about, like, Skitter from the outside, like, Regent from the outside, he's doing so much stuff, the gasping, the giggling, the evil cackle, where, like, he tries to laugh, but, like, Sophia's angry, so it sounds totally unhinged, and he's like, I guess she does have multiple personalities right now. Right. It just, all the stuff that he's doing is very much like, I get to be a real supervillain now, kind of, you know, thing. Yes. Despite all of the nuance, I feel like outwardly that's what's going on here.
Yeah, what he's doing is pretty straightforwardly villainous.
Yeah, I wanted to note, maybe this isn't that important, but he does talk about sticking to what he enjoys in the context of like not being close to the other Undersiders. And so it's not true that there's nothing he enjoys except using his power like this. Right. So like there must be,
he likes his Earth Aleph media.
He likes his Earth Aleph
media.
Video games, yeah. And that makes sense also, like, you know, similar, he must like scary movies, right? Sort of, that's again, the thrill that you get from a mediated experience.
I'm still on the idea of, like, he could make someone diet. It would take a really long time is the problem.
That's true.
I don't know that they'd be willing to put up with that.
Yeah.
But there are people who are desperate enough that they would do that.
Yeah.
The gym thing would be a little healthier, I think, but...
I mean, it's great. This will be our, like, nanobot AI future, right? It's like... Your job will just be, give me control of your body. It's I guess that's Severance, right? It's like, give me... I've never watched Severance, but I sort of get the idea. Like,
yeah. The thing with Severance is your mind isn't there for the other part of it. So you wouldn't really be like, do my job for me, because you'd be even more bored. That's the future
that our Silicon Valley overlords want right now. Like, the current crop of them is aiming towards this, like, you know, people as machines future. So... watch out, y'all, and read Seek. I will say, for people who like this chapter, I'm just gonna hype up Seek, and this is, I guess, a spoiler for one of the 3 central characters of Seek, but you discover this in, like, the 2nd chapter of Seek, so I don't feel bad mentioning it. One of the protagonists is an onboard AI system to a person who has control over, like, nanomachines in their body that can help regulate all sorts of physical things, but has no direct access to its host's brain, thoughts and feelings and things like that. So the things that Regent is doing here with Sophia is a lot like what Basil can sense from his host, A, in Seek, with, like, I could tell, you know, her blood pressure was changing, or just like the hormonal responses and things like that. So if you want one whole third of a Wildbow web serial that is from Regent's perspective,
like, the emotional valence is a little bit different.
definitely different. But I understand why Wildbow wanted to go back to that.
Yeah, it's fascinating.
Kind of dynamic, because this is such a standout chapter. Yeah, I guess, I don't know that we read it, but his statement to her, like, about the why is he going to kill her. I don't know if I care all that much, but it's the sort of thing I'll do because it feels like I should. This is about his teammate being hurt. Dunno. There's also the fact that you're dangerous and you've outlived your usefulness, so unless you can give me a convincing reason. I read this as very honest, and that dunno to me is where I'm like...
He doesn't understand himself.
He says, you fucked with my teammate as the main reason. And then she's pushing it on him, and he's like... He cuts her off, and he says, well, I don't know if I care all that much, right?
Yeah.
I feel like I should, dunno, right? Like, it's not like he's putting on an act. It's that he's so frustrated with how out of touch he is.
He's so,
right. And I just
alienated from his own.
There's such a difference between I'm alienated from my emotions and I don't understand them, or even if I have them, and I don't have any.
No,
right?
that's
like,
true.
I think that's
definitely. Yeah.
So this dunno ambivalence,
I feel like they're muted,
real.
not that they're gone. I wonder where we're going next. Is it dragon? I want it to be dragon.
It could be dragon.
It's going to be dragon. I'm just making that happen. As I mentioned
before, there's another interlude coming up next.
Although, if the other interlude is, like, the bonus one, it's probably not going to be, like, super plot relevant, because it'll be something that, like, Wildbow was kind of maybe keeping...
Oh, well, I can clarify that the bonus interludes are bonus in the sense that they wouldn't have happened without donations, but they are always moving stuff along sort of in an equal sense. I mean, I
guess if he's writing as he goes, it's not like he was sitting on these. Yeah.
So I think it's an opportunity. It's sort of like, maybe this is an interlude we would never have gotten, or maybe this is just like an interlude we wouldn't have gotten for a couple of arcs, and now he had the idea, the opportunity to write it sooner, right? So I think as we go through, the bonus interludes are always going to be interludes, but they always belong where they belong in terms of moving the narrative forward.
All right, then I want dragon.
Well,
I want her to reach out to Taylor.
Do you want the first sentence, or do you want cape names first?
Cape names first.
Not.
K-N-O-T?
Yeah.
Oh, N-O-T would have been fun, though. It's kind of an imp power.
That's more imp's power.
Yeah. Not. I'm sort of, my first thought is like a contortionist. It's like a little bit circus. I think it's going to be a wood-based power.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. That's fun. Can travel through wood.
Or, like, turn into a huge tree.
Okay.
Like ent powers. That's what I want.
Not. That's great. Saint.
This is part of the, like, Christian
Haven.
fellowship. Haven, yeah.
Could be.
Saint. It almost sounds like a purity power, like light that blinds you and hurts you.
Yeah.
Yeah, I kind of want to go with, like, some kind of thaumaturgy, like creating, like, visions and shining lights and stuff.
Yeah. Do you want me to tease you about Saint?
Sure.
Saint is actually more inspired by a particular saint.
Interesting. Someone who turns into a Saint Bernard.
Yeah, perfect.
Maybe,
Let's do the synergy with bitch.
Maybe it's like a Joan of Arc thing where, like, they can set themselves on fire.
Yeah. Ramrod.
This sounds like I had a draft of a middle grade novel where my character's power was that he could straighten things out, which came in surprisingly handy, but that's what it sounds like this guy's power is.
I love that. Iron Rain.
Well, that sounds dangerous. Is it R-A-I-N?
Yes.
Iron Rain. It also kind of conjures like a hook wolf thing, like they can turn into bits of iron.
It does feel pretty Empire 88 coded.
Yeah. All right, this is kind of a stretch. Probably wouldn't get this name, but I keep thinking of like pennies dropping from the Empire State Building type thing.
Okay.
What if you can just like give something like a ton of potential energy, even though you didn't drop it from up high?
Ooh.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Does that sort of be just like making it heavier? I don't know.
I mean, a little bit ballistic-like, but it would probably have a slightly different effect.
Yeah.
Lizard Prince. It's the musician Prince, but a lizard.
I feel like this is like if Alec had a really different power. This is
just Prince triggered and became the artist formerly known as Prince, now known as Lizard Prince.
Wow. I think that this is case 53. Did I get the number right?
Yes.
Yeah, it's someone who just looks like a lizard. It's sort of a neuter type thing, and he can control other lizards.
Perfect. A neuter-Taylor combination. Yes. Or neuter-Taylor bitch combination.
It's unfortunate because there aren't that many lizards around, so you really have to bring
and he's not even lizard
BYOL. But he's in line.
I guess that's Leviathan.
That's true. He's the lizard heir apparent.
Last, but perhaps not least, Murder Beam.
Murder Beam! Wow, that's a great name. So this is not the Slaughterhouse 9, because we already met them, but Murder Beam. I mean, what is this except laser eyes? Like...
Yeah, makes sense.
He's got to be like Cyclops.
Makes
it's like,
sense. So having heard these cape names, does this change your opinion about the interlude, or like, are we meeting them all at once? A bunch of randos? What's going on here?
I really want this interlude to take place in the birdcage.
Okay.
But if it's dragon, maybe she is dealing with the birdcage.
Very possible.
I'm still sticking with my dragon prediction.
Well, do you want the first sentence?
I do.
Signal terminated for 30 minutes and 5.
I mean, that definitely could be dragon.
Say
what
more.
Signal is being terminated? Is that her suit having blown up and so she can't get a signal from it anymore?
Interesting.
Yeah, I think that's what it is.
Wow. We'll find out.
Next time.
On Inchworm. Worm is a web serial by J.C. McCrae. You can read Worm at parahumans.wordpress.com and support the author at patreon.com/wildbow. Follow us on Tumblr and Blue Sky at Inchworm Podcast, or find our Discord link and any other updates on inchwormpodcast.com.